Alright, my dear children, we were discussing the condition for interference of sound wave in the last YouTube video, okay, and had discussed in detail about, I explained in detail about the three important conditions for the interference sound wave to be observed, okay. Now, other than this condition, now we have some practical application of interference sound, because sound can also have interference. That means more than two sound waves can even superpose each other and form and simply redistribute the energy, okay, to form either constructive interference and destructive interference. And this formation of constructive and destructive interference of sound wave lead to some practical examples. And what are the examples? So one of the most common example we see in lecture halls. In lecture halls, the sound from the speaker, the person who's the source of sound, who says something, reaches the listener directly. Yes, the sound can be reached directly also, as well as after reflection, even from the wall, even from the ceiling. Now these two sound wave, which reaches directly to the listener, okay, or after the reflection of the wall and the ceiling, okay, have different path difference. They have a different path difference at different places. So that these two sound wave, when they reach each other at a point at different places, then there will be a place where there is where almost there is no sound is heard, and that leads to the destructive interference. Why there is no sound is almost heard? Because the two sound waves which superpose each other in such a way so that the intensity of sound almost become zero, or it become minimum also. It become what? Minimum also. So that leads to destructive interference. Sometimes that's why the reason that at some place where the sound is almost not heard, if you hear the sound, that is also a minimum sound, while at some other place, a point, a very loud sound is heard, and that is due to the superposition of two waves in such a way so that the intensity of sound become maximum, and that leads to the formation of constructive interference. So this is basically occurs in lecture halls, and this observation, if we do, is basically on the interference sound. But we as a observer, we never realize this, okay. But actually this is the case that exactly happens when some lectures going on in the lecture halls, okay. Sometimes the sound will be minimum at one place, and sometimes the sound will be maximum at other place, okay. So this is also one of the example, a practical example of interference of sound. Now, other than this lecture hall example, now we have another example of interference sound that also takes place, and this is in radio program. This is under what? Radio programs. In radio programs also, this interference of sound can be observed. And basically what happened actually in radio programs is that the transmitted radio waves from the radio station will transmit broadcast or transmit the radio signal, okay, in the form of sound wave, okay, radio waves, okay, and that radio wave reaches to the air in the form of sound wave, okay, from the radio station, and that reaches to the distant places. The distant places means the place which are large distance. It can reach directly also, and it can even reach as well as after reflection from ionosphere, because radio waves send a signal, okay, to the distant places either through radio waves also, and this radio wave can pass through this ionosphere and on. It can pass through ionosphere also, it can pass directly to the what? Distant places. So under this case, what happened? The two different waves passing directly to the distant place or through the ionosphere, okay, have different path difference at different places. And when the path difference are different, their phase difference are also different, okay. And due to that, at some places, the program of the radio station is clearly heard, and it can say a loud sound, forming a constructive interference, okay. Whereas at some other places, the program of the sound cannot be heard clearly. That means we can hear a poor voice, and that is due to the formation of what? Destructive interference. And due to this interference called destructive and constructive interference, and due to difference in the path difference and the phase difference for the wave reaching from different end to the listener, we cannot hear the sound of same intensity everywhere of the region. At some place we can hear a sound of large intensity, means a loud sound can be heard, and in some place we can hear a sound of minimum intensity, means the minimum sound or less intensity of sound can be heard, okay. So these two are the good example to understand the practical example of interference of sound. So we have done in detail about the interference of sound. But children, remember this concept of interference you will be learning in class 12 also. And we apply this interference concept even in the light wave, in case of chapter called light also. Okay. Now in the next YouTube video we go to the topic that is called beat. And beat in what? Sound wave.